Hello, people. Welcome to the Lee Cole 3 podcast with my partner, James Proctor. And today we have Frank. Frank, pronounce your last name for me.
Di Matteo.
Di Matteo. Because, I say DiMatteo, and Angel Gotti yells at me and goes, no, it
You
Lee,
can
it's
say
Di
Matteo.
Matteo.
Just an Americanized way of saying it. It's the same thing. Di Matteo is the Italian way of saying it.
Well, I appreciate you coming on, and we brought you on. You have a new book coming out. And just so everybody knows, your book coming out, whoops, that's the wrong book because you got so many books, is The Cigar. And it's about Carmine Galante. And what made you write a book about Carmine Galante?
Okay. Well, Carmine was an interesting guy. I'm a fan of this genre. And, I write books for Kensington Press. And we sit down and, I happen to be a successful writer for them. Every book I've done for them so far does well. So they offer me, another book to do. And we sit down and figure who to do and what to do. And I mentioned, that I met Carmine twice in the early 70s. And they said, okay, let's go with Carmine Galante. He's an interesting guy. And I said, no problem, I'll do it. And that's how we wound up getting Galante.
Now, this book is going to be released on March 28th. Is that correct?
Yes, March 28th is the actual release date.
Can they go to Amazon anywhere pretty much to get the book?
Yes. Yeah, Amazon. It'd be on my website, mobcandymag.com. It's Amazon, Kensington, probably Barnes & Noble. You probably all around. It's a major company. They put it out everywhere. There's pre-ordering now, and then I get the books, I think, the 28 on. It's everywhere.
Carmine Galante had a very tough reputation. He was a very tough guy. Do you think what do you think would have been different in the family, and if Carmine Galante was not killed?
I don't think much because they were so split up at the time that it was going to be in disarray anyway. He was an older guy. He wasn't going to hold the reins too long. He was a big junk guy, and that's he didn't go no further than that. He wasn't widespread and had his hands into a million things, legit and other things. So he was pretty one way. He would reign, and I just think that it would have been more bloodshed if they didn't take him out, because he was he wouldn't take no for an answer, and it was going to turn out good anyway. So somebody had to go, and by him going, it cleaned everything up in the family.
And he was more with the Sicilian faction of the family, say, than Joe Messina, who was more Americanized. Is that correct?
100%. He had all this women from Italy, his bodyguards. He did all his dealing, with the junk from Italy, and he surrounded himself with the guys from Sicily. Messina had, American guys around him, guys that he brought in himself, like his brother-in-law and guys like that. Galante really had a tight connection with the other side.
They talk about the Colombo civil wars and stuff. There was actually at this time a civil war going on in the Bonanos for control. Would you pretty much say that is accurate?
Yeah, Bonanos having trouble for a while. Joe Colombo Bonanno got in trouble in the 60s with trying to, I think, going after Gallo and Joe Colombo, ratted him out. It started all then, and that split in the Colombo family, and Joe went up, Banana went up to Arizona. So it was always some kind of fiction going on in that family. So it was just kept on going. And, when Carmine got out of jail, he thought he was the boss. He wanted to be the boss. He didn't get along with Stelly. And it just escalated. And guys, they've been doing it for years. The Colombos and the Bananas been doing it for years. It's nothing new. It's just more publicized now because we talk about it and read it, but it's there always trouble. It's one of the two families that always had trouble in the family.
Now, James, what would you like to ask him about the book?
Yeah. So, I'm not sure how deep you went into this, but regarding Galante, people don't realize how instrumental he was in establishing alliances. For example, with the Cotroni family in Montreal and all the heroin trafficking and the French Connection. And so, what can you tell us about your research and I guess Galante's dealings with the Montreal crime families?
He was the bloodline for the U.S. from Montreal, from Italy. He had restaurants in Canada. He spent a time in Canada, Galante. So I mean, his tight drug connection back and forth with him, with his links to Canada and Italy. I mean, he's the man at the time, with the junk. So I mean, that's established that was his bag. That's what he did.
And James, you could ask him some more questions.
The pizza.
Yeah.
I mean, he had the pizza restaurants. It did networked. In the book, I can tell you how it networked, how they did it with places, and how they imported, outboarded it. His back and forth from Canada. It's all in the book. I did research. Met him twice. When I was a young guy down President Street. And I mentioned the two incidents in the book, but I did my research on him as much as I could. I think I covered it pretty well. There's only so much you can know. In this life, you're not supposed to know these things. That's when I, as a fan, when I hear these people know too much stuff, I scratch my head because you're supposed to know these things. You know what I mean? You don't supposed to know these things, and people a lot of stuff that they don't supposed to know. So I scratch my head. Is how's every secret thing of us? Everyone knows. They know other people's business and other families. I mean,
that's true.
Now with the internet and everything being written in the last 20, 25 years, now everyone's knowledgeable about what's going on. Everybody comes experts, mob experts, and has an opinion. But prior to that, you wouldn't know no one's big. You don't know who I am. I mean, not to get off the track, but Larry Mazza. Larry, just use Larry as a for instance. I don't bash nobody because that's not what I do. You know what I mean?
Right.
That's not my style. I don't do that. I'm not here. But no one knew who he was unless he got pinched. And then in the newspapers, but no one's been writing about Larry Mazza or I might go down the line of all those guys that are on television now. Even Michael Francese, I know Michael well, but before he got pinched, no one knew the hell Michael was. And then all these experts come out and know so much. No one knows nothing unless it was written down by someone who let some knowledge out. Because you wouldn't know any of these guys prior to them getting pinched, and flipping.
Yeah.
If they didn't flip, you still wouldn't know. All you do would be there would be a picture in a paper with someone's name there, gangster. But unless they flipped. So, a lot of knowledge came out in the last, year because of, what happened in this life, I get the shit in the stick sometimes. I get the shit in the stick sometimes. I have no immunity,
Right.
And
exactly.
And I can't say nothing. So I gotta sit here sometimes like a fool. And nod and don't say nothing. And can't tell great stories. I can't do that. That's not what I can do. I mean, because I didn't flip, and I have no immunity, and and I can get in trouble. And I can get and some guys are still alive that can get in trouble.
Mhm.
I've never
Yep.
got nobody in trouble in my life, and I never had to, and now I can start doing it now. But I have some great stories to tell. I just can't tell them.
Yeah.
And
So
Frank, let me
the
ask you a
difference
question.
in
You got Sammy Gravano out here, right? And now all of a sudden, now you got Leonardo out here, Mikey
Mikey
Scars out
Stars,
here,
yeah.
and he is countering
that
Sammy. Sammy's creating a lot of stories, and Mikey's saying, "Wait a minute, Sammy, I was with you. This ain't the way it happened." What do you think when you see something like that?
But you get two egotistical guys, man, telling bad stories. You know, they're gonna vary, and no, these guys do not put themselves down. You know what I mean? They don't do that. You know, and they don't make themselves look bad. So they're gonna argue or their version of the same story. I mean, I've seen it 100 times. You know, you tell the story how it looks good for you, or he tells the story it looks good for him. So you got to take all this with a grain of salt of how true the story is. They're basically true. You know, it's just how little pieces that are meaninless that changes. You know what I mean? But
Yeah, like an embellishment.
basically,
Yeah, the
true.
embellishment. Yeah.
Yeah, you got to do that, man. You got to do that.
Mhm.
Well, that's why they do so well. They embellish it so well for the consumer. You know, that they sit there dribbling. You know,
Yeah.
they don't know it's true or not, because Sammy says something does not mean it's true. You know what I mean?
Right.
You know, even though Sammy was underboard. You know, I mean, Sammy's he did what he had to do, and he was privy to a lot of stuff. But he's another one that he knows too much people's business, man. I don't like that, man. I grew up with a Gallo family. I couldn't even ask a question. They'll tell me, "The fuck you asking a question about? Not your business." And these people know about everybody. I mean, that's why I scratch my head as someone that was around. I mean, these are big shots. I'm not a big shot, you know, but I'm in the same trenches with them. And
Sure.
it's a completely different world I lived in. I don't know, maybe it was a different era because it was maybe a little before them, or just the different people I was with. These people are too knowledgeable, man. It's just, too much about everything else but what they're supposed to know about. That's what I'm saying, But Larry's a good guy. I spoke to him well. I spoke to him a few times. I have no, malice with nobody. People do what they have to do, and that's it. It doesn't me give my opinion if it's right or wrong. I give my opinion. I never, say it's okay, but I'm not the one that has to do it and go to jail for life. So it's easy for all of us to say they're no good, but I mean it's no good. But life is no good, and the whole life was bad. So now you take all the bad things they did now, and the one more bad they did now, they're no good. They were no good before that when they killed people and who said they baseball batted and who shot people in the face. No one cares about that. They only care about they ratted. I mean, come on, man. We're not normal people in the first place. You're trying to make normal out of sick people, including myself. I did stupid shit. Sick. I love my father. He was a sick man, but I love him. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because this is what we do. To try to clean it up is very stupid. What the problem here now is that with Larry and Michael and Sammy and Leonardo and whomever else is coming out. There's another guy, Dominic Cicale.
Cicale, yeah. Yep.
No one has no remorse here. No one. No one. They lived a life. Some guys are straightened out. They broke the code, and no one has no remorse. No one puts their head down in shame.
Right.
If they had remorse,
no remorse.
They wouldn't be on here.
Be on TV. Yes, of course. I mean, everybody did what they did. No problem. You did what you did. You're supposed to now put your head down in shame and go on your life. Not come on all these podcasts and their own podcasts and speak like, wow, they did something so good. You know what I mean? That they broke the oath and put people in jail. They got ratted on, and it's a domino. Now they have to rat on someone else. So it's all no good. So, you could say that, listen, you ratted on me, fuck you, it's over with, which I believe. But now you got to take out your partner that did nothing wrong. That's why it's not good. And you can't clean it up because you fucked me, so I fucked you. It's not good. So do what you got to do. Live your lives, and at least be a little remorse that you're men, and we had and we did, and you did what you had to do, which is not a good thing. And just go and live your lives, man. But no, to make money, all want fame. I mean, we were famous already. And walk the streets with a big stick. Now you want to be famous again, or the public to know, to make money. Push books. Yeah. This is what I do. I walked out of this life very luckily 20 years ago, maybe over that now, and started writing books because I was always in a publishing business, with school magazine, because I grew up in a oral business. That's all I did, and I tried to do what I did, before and carried it on. That's why I made magazines, Mob Candy, and I wrote 10 books already. But, and I went on, and the books I wrote were about dead people. Every book I wrote was about dead people. I never implicated no one in any crimes that were not dead. Somebody called me up a couple of weeks ago and said, Frankie, I don't read all the comments on all these shows. And somebody went, they called you a dry snitch. I said, what the fuck is a dry snitch?
Exactly.
And then I looked it up. I don't know what the fuck. I looked it up, but I don't know what it was. And I looked at it, I scratched my head. I says, that's not what I do. Dry snitch is someone who gets somebody in trouble to save themselves, but they do it sneakily. I write books about dead people. How do you even come with a comment like that? So you got to deal with these people that have no sense of or no knowledge, that you're not supposed to have no knowledge unless someone tells you a story. I told somebody in an interview a couple of weeks ago, they don't know me from the a lot of people don't know me from the street because I wasn't in the paper. We were smart enough not to get pinched, get convicted, and we were lucky enough not to have rats around us that flipped on us. Very lucky, which we're grateful for. So they don't know who the fuck we are. And that's the way it's supposed to be. You don't supposed to be known. The thing, my father and we were criminals and doing something. The main thing was not to get caught.
Exactly.
That was the thing. It was to rob and not get caught, not to give it back to the lawyers. It's to get away with it. So your strategy is to not get caught. I like to
ask you a question on that, Frank. Okay, one guy that got caught a lot, even though they called him the ultimate gangster, was Sonny Francis. But he did spend a long part of his life in prison. So would you say that he was just one of those guys that had the habit of getting caught, or he was set up?
So he had 24-hour surveillance on. He couldn't fuck without the law knowing. So what he did, he was gonna be scrutinized for. But that was his life. I mean, he was a gangster. I knew Sonny. He didn't give a fuck. He just tried to outsmart them, and he couldn't. I mean, because if he didn't bring the heat on himself, everything around him had heat, and it was going to reflect back to him anyway. So he was just someone that was on their radar, and he could not shake it at all.
Do you believe he was?
Some people are too big. Excuse me.
Do you believe that he was set up on that bank robbery?
Yes. I think he was. They made him too deep than he was. Now, knowledge of it, and I got knowledge of a lot of stuff. Doesn't mean that it's I did it or I should go to jail for 50 years.
Right.
But is he stupid? No, he wasn't stupid. But you get railroaded a lot of things, and you also get away with a lot of things. So even Michael Francesi says if he got caught for the things he did, he would have done the 50 anyway.
Exactly.
I have a couple of questions about. Yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
Ask your questions, James.
I'm saying, so,
related to Sonny. I don't know. Have you heard about S.J. Petty's book that was written about Sonny last year? She's with the Daily News, I believe. There's a biography about Sonny. Oh, you haven't? Okay.
I know it's there. I've been busy writing books, so I haven't
Yeah.
read anything.
Yeah, and have time to read. No, it's a
I,
good
I,
book, and yeah, it's a good book. But a couple of things I
there
just
was
wanted
a
to ask
guy.
you about. Yeah, go ahead.
There was a guy with Sonny the last 2-3 years that he gave almost like his memoirs to. So if
Yeah.
it's anywhere from the guy that was around him, it's going to be pretty good. So
Yeah.
I don't know where it's coming from, but
Are you talking about Vila? Are you talking about Vila?
I don't know if she did it or there was a guy around him that was taking notes with Sonny that Sonny was giving him. I don't think he was the one who gave it to her, and she's the one that's put the book out. But he sat with somebody and gave them a lot of information.
Right.
Yeah. Well, in Sonny's book, he mentions that I've seen your account of what happened with the first Colombo War, but then in Sonny's book, Sonny mentions that he took part in the peace negotiations as well. Do you know if Sonny was involved in that and regarding the end of the first Colombo War?
In 1962, 63, you're talking about?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
No, I don't. I never heard Sonny's name being mentioned. On those negotiations. Sonny was pretty neutral. Sonny was pretty neutral during that war. You don't hear too much about Sonny Francis during the war. Now I don't know if he was in jail at the time, or whatever. But I don't remember Sonny coming down. Now Sonny was very friendly with us, so I mean, talking to a lot of guys were talking at the time. The first war, Larry and Joey had a lot of guys who were sympathetic to them, and that's why they got as far as they got. Bender and there was a couple of captains in the Pavachi family that was sympathetic until they got better deals from other people, and these guys they can switch on a light switch. I mean, that's how these guys are. Not everybody, but a lot. I mean, so no, I don't remember anyone ever seeing me. And don't forget, I wasn't there in 62, 63. I'm a young guy.
Yeah, you was about 5 or 6
years
years old then.
But,
yeah.
I was like 6 at the time. Now, my father came in, I think, in 61 or something like that.
Yeah.
He got involved with them. But no, I never heard. I mean, you hear people talk. We were a close-knit crew down President Street, and when you're drinking and smoking, sitting around, stories come up and stuff like that, and never heard of Francese. I know Nicky Bianco was in that on that sit down. Liglia, Wacky Liglia was instrumental in that. No.
And that's what I've always heard too. French. Yeah, I didn't hear Sonny.
But if Michael said it, but if Sonny says he was there, I mean, you got to take at least 60%. He said he was there, instrumental. Yeah. I mean, he could have been instrumental in a lot of ways. Everybody looks at like he went down on a car and got out of the door on President Street.
Right.
He could have been talking to somebody. He could have been laying messages. He could have been helping, arrange something. So it's not that cut and dry that he was the guy that walked into the club with Joey. I mean, it doesn't work that way.
Right.
You can't say no or yes.
Mm-hmm.
I would not. He did so much other things than that. So, yeah.
Frank, you were around a lot of these guys. A lot of these guys were very big guys. Out of all these guys, including the bosses, who's the one that you respected the most?
Well, I got my father's number one. My father was number one. My father's, you just don't know him because he's a legend. I mean, because he didn't get pinched enough and didn't do enough pitches. My father is a legend in this world, and whoever's left to know. So I would say my father. Gallo to us was a mentor. I mean, Joey, we love Joey because Joey was so charismatic, man, and he was, you could not like him. But we don't know him long enough. He was only out a year when when my balls were folded up and I moved the street, I only saw him a year. But to me, my father, Larry, were gods to me. I mean,
could I
there was
ask
other
you
guys
something?
around that were
Right.
like, yeah,
Yeah,
James.
regarding Larry. Yeah,
with other
regarding
guys
Larry.
around.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No. I mean, regarding Larry Gallo, I don't think people realize, he's really the real leader of that crew. And, what I liked about Larry was he didn't seem half cocked like Crazy Joe. He thought before he reacted. And so here's my question I posed to you. If Larry Gallo had not died from cancer in 1968, how do you think things would have turned out after Joe got out of prison? Would there have even been a second Colombo War?
I think if Larry didn't die of cancer in '68, I think he was strong enough to move up the ranks that he would have been in position, a better position in the family. Uh, um, uh, so, they would have been a lot stronger because Larry would have been stronger at the time,
Yeah.
and it would have Joey would have been as pissed off as he was, and they would have been stronger financially, and they would have been an industry. They would have been stronger if Larry stood alive because he would have been, the crew would have been bigger, and he would have been more visible because Larry was well liked in that world. Even by Pafaci wasn't crazy about Joey, but he liked Larry,
Right.
Because Larry was level-headed. I mean, Larry's a tough guy. He'll kill you if you had to. But he was more of a level-headed and explained things and passionate. That's why we all loved Larry, because he'll sit down to you. He didn't speak like do's, do's, and do's and do's. He spoke to you regular and passionate. If Larry lived, I don't think that 71 to 32 would have happened. I don't think so. No, not at all.
Yeah, that's my thought too. And in fact, Larry or Joey might not have ever ended up at Umberto's.
Well, it's like anything else. You don't. The hit on Colombo might not have happened because Larry would have been a stronger position. He could have been another boss by then. He could have been consigliere by then, Larry. Larry very strong. So that changes the whole game for Joey. We didn't need to do this then. It would have been a whole different game. So the whole scenario would have been different if Larry was alive. Because Larry would have went up the ranks, no doubt it. No. So
James
changes the whole story.
James had a question to ask you about Umberto's. James, you asked me this question yesterday. Why don't you ask now that you?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So, we know the story about what happened to Joey Gallo at Umberto's, but there was a couple of interesting facts that I read from your book. So, and this is regarding Matty the horse. So he owned Umberto's. He was a heavyweight in the Genovese family. Obviously he was involved in, a lot of what went on in Times Square as well. That industry, porn industry, all that. He's a big guy. But what I heard on that night that Matty was standing outside the restaurant and that he gave permission to take out Joey inside because there was an open contract on Gallo. But then I hear your story that Matty the horse was livid. And so my question is, what's the truth about Matty? There was an open contract. I know that's true, but was he livid or did he say, yeah, you can go ahead and do that? But then, we hear about Pete the Greek. And so he actually thought that Matty was involved in the hit. And I believe you might have mentioned that he had put a gun to Matty's head that night.
Yes.
So,
okay.
So what's your thoughts on that?
As a
Matty?
adult, think about it. I'm going to think about it.
Yeah.
I'm standing in front of, I'm with the feds watching me all the time, the law all the time. I have more trouble than God. I open a joint up. You're going to walk up to me. And you're going to say, we're going to kill Joey and everybody in your restaurant. And you're going to say, oh, okay. And then be there and jump over the counter when the bullets fly. I mean, I'm a ninth grade dropout, but come on, man. Who says these things? Who says these things?
Right.
Think about it. Would you let somebody in your restaurant? Would you jump over when bullets fly? Would you jump over a counter? Being a May guy in a Genovese family, it makes no fucking sense.
No, it doesn't. Nope.
The story
but that's some of
like
the stories you hear out there.
From the
yeah.
Exactly. You hear million stories because if you're not there or you're not privy to a person who was there, you know nothing.
Right,
exactly.
Nothing.
You hear story, but no one ever spoke to Greek or Carmela or Joey's wife and the girlfriend. If no one spoke to them, you don't know nothing, right?
Exactly.
The story is Joey got hungry. They passed the Chinese joint we used to go to all the time. It was closed.
Exactly.
I don't understand that part. I never did because that place was always open and we always went there. Now, I don't understand that part. There's no one to me to ask because everyone's dead. Number two, you have to pass the Limehouse to make the U-turn to get around to get back to Umberto's. Go into the Limehouse. Why would you pass the Limehouse? I don't understand that either yet.
Yeah.
He goes on Mulberry Street. They, beat the greases boss outside, and the place, and he opens it. So he opens the door. He opens the window. Said, "Matty," but he goes, "Come in. It's new. We just opened up." And they went into play. They parked on the side on Hester Street, and they went in to eat. Joe Lubarelli was out there. Everyone knows.
Yeah.
Joe Lubarelli was right when Joey pulled up. Knew there was a hit on Joey. He went down to the club.
Yep.
They called Joe Yak up, who was the acting boss of the Colombo at the time. You know, but Lubarelli didn't get on the phone and say, "Oh, Joey's there with his sister, wife, baby, Pete the Greek, and his girlfriend." He just said, "Joey's in there. It's open, boom, boom." Joe Yak said, "Go get a gun and kill him. Go do what you got to do." Yak gets Sonny Pinto. They get a couple of guys, Beanie and Cecil, and another guy, John Gambino, to drive cars and do and within 10, 15 minutes. And they go in and kill Joey.
Yeah.
And Sonny was the shooter.
You
know, Joey, Pete the Greek gets hit in the ass because when he flipped the table over, he bent over, you know, to out of the way because the bullets are flying at you. And he gets hit in the ass. Joey runs out the place to get the bullets away from his daughter and the girls, his sister, Carmela.
Yep.
Gets shot again outside. Pete runs out, sees Joey in the street, you know, tries to comfort him. Then grabs what's his name? Boss comes over the bar after the counter after the bullets stop flying, and Pete the Greek out of anger grabs him and says, "What the? You have something to do with it? If you have something to kill you." Out of the anger for the summit, it's not even questionable. That's what you're doing in that situation.
Sure,
so, in the moment. He goes outside, the cops come, they find the gun, and Pete gets pinched for gun possession.
Yeah.
Pete he goes, they bring Pete to the hospital. He gets fixed up with the gunshot. He gets arrested, gets arraigned, comes down. The first thing, when he comes down Medicine Street, all there because Joey just got killed. And first thing Blast asks Joey, he goes, asks Pete the Greek, is who killed Joey? Pete, right there, 15 feet away, Pete the Greek leaned over and said, "Fucking Sonny Pinto." That's it. I don't need no more.
Yeah.
I don't know. What more do you need? Then in 72, you got that Joe Pesh. He runs away and he goes to the law. He tells the whole fucking story. That's why Joe gets pinched. Why people question stuff that's all documented from 72?
Exactly. Totally with you.
That's why Elvis is still alive. You know, you have stupid things that are said and history change. And let's explain. Let's talk about the next hit. That you described that beautifully, by the way. Thank you. The Galante, when Galante's killed. Describe what you think happened there exactly.
Yeah. Rostelli and that crew was strong. They got to his bodyguards and said, explain as this. They got to his bodyguards and said, we're going to kill him. We're going to kill you if you don't back off. Simple as that. These guys, even though they were loyal, we kill each other, man. Don't forget that. As loyal as they were, that's who kills you. Your brother, your cousin, your father, your best friend. You ain't killing me because you can't get close to me. But we get close to each other real well. They got the word that they're gonna go if they don't back off, and they let them come in and kill them, and that's what happened.
So they knew ahead
Simple
of
as
time.
that. He had to go.
Yeah. So they knew ahead of time the hit.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
100%, man. Or they would be dead.
Exactly.
They would have been dead. Why Carmine? Why the restaurant owner and whoever else and the two bodyguards know? Because they were in on it.
Right.
Well, I'm going to play something real quick.
Survival of the fittest, man.
Yep.
Go ahead.
I'm going to play something real quick.
The Bushwick section of Brooklyn. 4 masked men armed with automatic weapons pulled up outside. Minutes later, Galante and 2 others at the table were dead, and a 4th person seriously wounded. The gunman escaped. Galante looked more like a grandfather than a godfather as he walked his dog each morning in Greenwich Village. He was born in East Harlem, New York, and began his career as leader of a juvenile gang. In all, he spent 25 years in prison, but he rose steadily through the mafia ranks, from enforcer to chieftain. Along the way, according to authorities, he's believed to have killed or ordered the killing of about 100 men. Galante's legal front was a dry cleaning shop in New York's Little Italy, but his real interests embraced gambling, prostitution, loan sharking, and most of all, heroin and other drugs. Last fall, while in prison for breaking parole by consorting with known criminals, Galante was placed under federal protection after authorities reportedly were tipped off that a rival mafia group had put out a contract on him. After he was released on bail last March, 60 Minutes filmed this conversation between Galante and his lawyer, Roy Cohn.
I'm going to leave in the morning. I'm going to the country.
Good. What are you going to do when you get to the country?
Well, I planted peppers last week. Now I'm going to plant tomatoes.
The 69-year-old Galante was apparently involved in a power struggle for the #1 mafia position. Galante lost today, but police still don't know who won. And according to one expert, there may be several more killings before they find out. Bill McLaughlin, CBS News, New York.
He destroyed himself when he went on that show.
Yeah, you're on mute, Lee.
I don't hear you.
I'm sorry. Don't you love when you see stuff like that, Frank? The old days and the way it brings it back.
That killed that. It did, but that put a nail in his coffin when he went on TV.
Right.
The commission didn't like that. Even though he was being evasive and he was smarter than everybody else. We do it all the time. I've done it for all my life. We think we're smarter than everybody else and we'll be evasive like that or try to fool everybody. When the commission saw him on TV, that was it. They even faster said go kill him. Because it was a sanctioned hit from the commission. He was strong and junk. He had a lot of money, but there's numbers, man. And Rostelli had a stronger, And once they knew where the junk was and they knew the connection. Don't forget, once they didn't kill him without knowing the connections or who his top guys were dealing and where everything was. So when they killed him, they just took over the business because they had guys in place there already. He was expendable, you know what I mean? And he had to go.
Rostelli is one of those guys that when we talk about mobsters, he doesn't come up a lot, but he was a very strong guy.
Sure, he was strong enough to win that war. They went with him. The commission went with him, but he did a lot of jail time. And
that was his problem.
That was his problem. He was prison, and he always had Joey Massino running things, basically.
That's right. And those days, you're supposed to stay. You're not supposed to know who these guys are. You're not supposed to know. That's what I'm saying. Those days, if you weren't privy, you wouldn't know who these guys were. I try to explain to people only because of the technology we have today and people coming out of that you know who these people are. You would never know these people if it wasn't all the social media. You would have walked around. You would maybe in a neighborhood in the street you would know who he is. They whisper and not the fuck, but they wouldn't know him from fucking Wisconsin. I mean,
Yeah.
it's a whole new world live here. He was really under the radar, like Larry was. Nobody, you wouldn't know who fucking Larry was unless he kept getting pinched, and the law kept on, putting his name in the paper. But he was very low key. Some guys are out there. You know this. You've been watching the last 25 years now. Some guys, are stars. It's a different world. You know what I mean? Carmine was dangerous. He had to go.
Here's a question about your book. Here's a question about your book, The Cigar. Here's the famous question about the cigar. Who do you think put the cigar in his mouth like that?
Well, I only know what I read too. They said it was a detective, and then I read someone to say that it stuck in his mouth.
Right, and when you get shot like that, it's hard to picture something sticking in your mouth because the first thing you do.
They say you lock up. See, and another one I read, and I asked that question. They say you lock up too when you get shot. You lock up. You know what I mean? Or they could have put the detective put it in. I don't know. Is there pictures? Is there pictures without it in the mouth?
I haven't seen them.
No, right?
Yeah, I had people say, "Oh, they shouldn't have done that to him," and I'm saying that cigar in his mouth made him. To this day, that's what you think of when you think about that hit. It's him laying there with that cigar in his mouth. It's just one of those things.
Carmine had a cigar in his mouth 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. That was his. What do you call it? His logo. He always had a cigar in his mouth. Him and Papa Gallo, which is Larry and Joey's father, Papa Gallo. He 24 hours a day we had a cigar in his mouth, and if he ran out, we used to have to go run to get these fucking cheap green cigars. I think they're Brenninges or some Bimminges. I don't know what the hell. These green cigars, but he had it in his mouth constantly, 24 hours a day, man. Some guys, old timers, did that. You know what I mean? That was his logo, man. That was his logo.
Yeah.
What do you think about all these informants now? They're out here and they all have a cigar in their mouth playing the gangster.
Listen, I don't bash nobody. I don't approve of anything. But I also know what this is about. Everybody's out of jail. Everybody got a pass. You can say what the fuck you want, and you want to make money. So if it's allowed and people enjoy it, it don't matter what I think. You know what I mean? It don't matter. The bad was done already. This is nothing. This is just a money making, or try to make money, or try to get fame, part of your life now. I think everybody should put their head down and walk away. That's what I think. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I agree with that.
I don't think they're right. I don't think they're wrong. I don't know their situation. Right. And if I do, everyone has the right and to react to when they got to go to jail for life. You know what I mean? Until you want to go to jail, until you get that jail for life, you don't know. Until you get in that position to go to jail for life, you don't know what your reaction might be. Some guys don't give a fuck. Guys like John or these other guys, they just go. And then let me tell you something too. Not to take anything away from a lot of those guys who do life, they don't get fucking deals either. You know what I'm saying? You know what I mean? They want you. They wanted John. John Gotti couldn't give up nobody.
Yep.
Exactly. So he had no deals, man. So don't forget that too. Not to belittle anybody that they don't do the jail time and they're not tough guys. They're all tough guys. But you got to tell the truth. Tony Salerno didn't get a fucking deal to stay in the street because they wrapped up everybody around him. He couldn't give nobody up. They wanted him. So there's no deals. So you got to forget that. He did the whole time. Yeah, because he had no deals. Not that they wouldn't do it. I'm just saying, but let's take this in consideration too. You know what I mean? If you want to talk real.
Well, I think with John Gotti, even if he had deals at that point, the feds were so angry at him, he wasn't getting. He could bring them the president. It doesn't matter at that point.
No, they wanted him, and that's it. He fucked with them. It was a vendetta, and that's it.
5 years of him sticking his middle finger up at him, and it's like, it
So
gets. But you got guys like, say, Vinny Gorgeous and and even the psychopath Tommy Patera. But those guys could have given people away, could have gotten out, and they took their time. So I think it's something in their blood where it makes them different than other men.
definitely. It's in the individuals. Some guys, it's their world, that's their mentality, and they accept the consequences, and their honor is because they're so egotistically, strange that way, is that they won't embarrass themselves, so they sit in jail for life. Some guys are built like that. I mean, some guys are not.
I was reading where they went to Tommy Patera before Sammy Gravano, and Patera told him to go screw himself. So here's Patera and here's Gravano, two different men.
Right. Yes.
Yeah. There was
Sammy had his reasons, man, and he'll tell you why. And, I mean, then again, they gotta live with it, not me and you.
Right.
I don't bash nobody. Like I said, I don't prove of it, but unless you're in their shoes, man, it's really, really hard to face life. I faced life in prison. I know how scary it is. So it was scary, and some people don't want to do it. I didn't want to do it. I just rolled the dice because I had honor, and I would never disappoint my father. You know what I mean? I was on the same page with him. So to disrespect my father or to let him down, it would have been crushing. To me, I would never do that. You know what I mean? So I bit the bullet, and no one's happy to want to face 25 to life and 5 counts. Yeah. But he told me to sit it out. Don't worry. Don't panic. And he was right. And
you know what I hate to see though, Frank? These guys like Gravano and Dominic Cicale, they put away where they were part of helping put away certain. I hate when they get on the internet and attack the guys they put away. Dominic Cicale attacks Vinny Gorgeous, who loved him like a brother, and was devastated.
Yeah, Vinny might have loved him, but he didn't love him. But Dominic couldn't have loved him because he wouldn't have done that and be laughing now. You don't love somebody and do something like that and think it's a joke. You would be heartbroken, and that's nothing that you're supposed to talk about. So is it all a show? Is it a show? Are we on a show? I mean, is it so? Is it so important for fame to look at me on this show right now to make myself look bad? I don't know. Is it, like I said, I do because I'm trying to sell books. I don't want to go on the street and do nothing wrong. And I don't have too much, of an education. So I'm fucked everywhere I turn, man. But I get on here for the last 15 years, and I push books, I don't go bash nobody. I don't tell you bad story. I tell people, if you read the books or any of my interviews, I talk about dead people, and half the times it was comic,
Yeah.
I never told no one's secret that's alive. I got a lot of secrets. I mean, I got a lot of shit that could blow your fucking mind right now.
I can imagine some of the things you hear from people.
I can't tell you because people are alive, and I'm not sure if I get in trouble. I don't want to get in trouble, man. I'm a 67-year-old man. I'm in the fucking streets now, out of this life for 20 years, living pretty well, and to implicate myself in something. Fuck you, man. I'm doing good to now. Will I be a big shot on podcasts if I tell these stories? I don't need the big shot on podcasts. I'm a big shot already, man. Whoever knows me loves me. It knows me. And the people that's supposed to know what I'm capable of, what I did. I don't need a blogger to know what I did to make me big shot. Because if the blogger knew who I was, or what I did in my life, they wouldn't be questioning it, because if anybody ever wanted to question me, and I've never got questioned, I don't know if you know that, I've never got questioned. I've been doing this 15 years. Even high-ranking guys never come and question anything I ever fucking said because it's true. If people, like they said, people say things I'm a wannabe or a snitch, or I don't know what I'm talking about, they should go down to Red Hook and see who Frankie Malone was. They'll be surprised. There's still people around who Frankie Mullen was.
Well, the people that say that about you, Frank, or say that about people, are usually the people that are actually nothing.
Right.
100%. 100%. Someone who knows nothing about the life is the one that has the biggest amount. Definitely not. But it's silly why you would do that. Question, because just use your brain. Watch what we're doing for so long time. I never get questioned. How come I didn't get questioned? Larry Mazin didn't come and say you're an asshole. No, he would never do that because he knows that I know. He knows. Sammy knows by word of mouth who Ricky was. I don't think they ever crossed paths. But Michael Francesi knows my father very well. Ricky, he knows my father well. He would never question anything I say because there's no reason to. And that's why for 15 years I've been, publishing magazines and books and doing and trying to, sell these books, man. And I also have a good reputation of that. I'm also lucky that I was never in a position to have to flip and be like everyone else. I have to be lucky that way. So, you can't talk about other people and bash them when you're lucky. You're a lucky person in the same world they were in. That's why I try to stay away from that. I try to stay away from that. I push books and write stories about dead people, man. So I don't never touch nothing about people alive because there's interesting people out there right now that I could write about. Frankie Cali, Gambino's a great story. He's a great guy. I have to respect him. But there's too many live people. It's a fucking headache. So I don't touch stuff like that. So I got to stay with old stuff. And when you stay with old stuff, you get the market too. I hurt myself by not being current.
Mm-hmm.
But
can you imagine a guy like Joe Messina decides to come out and say, look, I'm going to sit down and I'm going to talk about the three captains murder and tell you exactly how it happened. I mean, could you imagine? He's the guy that became an informant, but you never hear a word from him.
Right. No.
And
maybe he's embarrassed. Or he's on a point and know that it's embarrassing that you should stay home and just go into the woodwork and live a great life. You know what I mean? Because you had an opportunity. That's why we understand here. You got a great opportunity here, man. You did very, very bad things in life. Very, very bad things. And they got passes for murders. Very bad things. And then you want to come and flaunt and laugh at everybody. And flaunt and laugh. That's why I just don't care about that. You know what I mean? You want to tell a story. You got a book. You're trying to earn a buck. You know what I mean? Beautiful. Everybody's got to earn money. You know what I mean? But, to be that proud, I baseball batted 1,000 people. I'm embarrassed to somebody.
We know what you're talking about there.
Doing anything bad. I never meant to. But me being Frankie, I would be embarrassed for if I baseball batted somebody's father. And then when they're little kid, and now they're teenagers, and I killed their father, or I crippled them. I'd be embarrassed for the kid. The kid has to look at me and say, "There's something like that." I'd be embarrassed. Maybe the father deserved it, and I had to do it. I'd still be embarrassed. I don't want that kid to know I did that. I don't want the mother to know I did that. Come on, man.
Well, that's
just me.
That's the issue with Sammy Gravano. He says he did these things with a smile on his face. He doesn't have no remorse whatsoever.
Right.
I mean, this is what certain people like him really gets underneath my skin because of the fact that he smiles about it and he attacks the people who are dead. He attacked a kid, Alan Kaiser, who on History 02, he gave a whole different story about how the kid was murdered. On here, he calls the kid a drug addict and said we shot him as he was trying to grab our shotgun, but the autopsy showed that he was shot in the back of the head running away. That's why I despise Sammy Gravano.
Yeah. These guys don't put themselves down. They're not going to do it. They're not going to, even with a clear, pass, they're not going to go on TV and podcasts and put themselves down. It's not in their character. It's not going to happen. So they're going to tell you stories, which most of them are true, but they're going to embellish it and they're going to not look bad. I turned in a book and told, when I got my first book, which I didn't know what the fuck I was doing, it was memoirs short together and like that. I said I was a loser, drunk. I was stupid. I always said that. I said that from day one. I admitted. You know what I mean? no one admits that, that they're wrong or they did something, wrong. I don't know. It's money, man. It's getting your face on TV and podcasts and trying to make a buck. So, people do a lot of things for that, man. Girls suck dick in Hollywood to get on TV. I mean,
guys in Hollywood do that.
Yeah.
Guys suck dick in Hollywood to get a movie part. It's a fact. So people do a lot of things to get this, this fame to be on. So they'll embellish themselves. They'll lie again. They don't tell the truth, and they tell stories that people want to hear. People don't want to hear dull stories. That's why everyone does so much better than me on podcasts, because they have greater stories and they embellish them, and people want to hear the dirt and the blood and the stuff like that. So they all don't go with that. You know what I mean? So you run with the ball and go. You know what I mean? Listen, man, this is it. This is what it is right now. You know what I mean? Is anything real? I mean, a lot of stuff is real. I just don't believe, being in that life, I just don't believe people know that much about other people's business. And I know it's a dirty life, and there was a lot of bad days and good days. I don't hear no one, talking about bad days and good. Everybody was a four. I didn't even, I'm saying, I came up from, my father came up from like 60, and I was with a great crew all my life. Who was a little kid, even not knowing nothing. I had gangsters that killed people around me that were feared, and I never heard the word enforcer until podcasts. Everybody's an enforcer. Everybody's a capo. Everybody's a high-ranking thing. Where the fuck is guys like me? There's none of us.
Yeah.
When everybody is a capo, an enforcer, or
guys like this come out and claim to be members of the family, and then you learn things from the families of these people that no, they weren't what they're saying they are, and they were just guys that happened to be in the neighborhood with these gangsters. That's it.
I've been out of this so long, I don't know who the fuck is who, and I don't give a fuck who's who, because it's not my business, and I don't want to know. It's not my business, man. You know what I mean? As long as nobody.
Here's a real mob question for you, Frank. Joe Colombo shooting. Tell us who you think did that shooting.